pro-Ukraine yielded not really so much different results from pro-Russian. It's a little bit that Tulsi Gabbard's, I guess, she's reported as being like her inexplicably pro-Russian views are mentioned, and I don't really think of it that way. That pro-Russian, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
What does that mean? You know,
That you blame NATO for what's happening, maybe?
well, all through the years, you know, like if she was like, I don't think that Russia supported Trump to any great success or anything
Right.
like that. That's probably a pro-Russian view.
Yeah, Russia didn't really hack the election as a pro-Russia view. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they linked to is a New York Times article entitled "What Exactly Is Tulsi Gabbard Up To?"
How dare she think for herself?
I mean, you know, really, it says, you know, the title of the story is "Pro-Ukraine Progressives Fret About Slippery Slope to War." It says there's rare bipartisan momentum in Congress to send nearly $14 billion in humanitarian and military aid to Ukraine, particularly lethal military weaponry. But in the rush to help the war-torn country, some progressives are nervous about where the aid ends and where getting sucked into war begins. There's very often a slippery slope when these military aid transfers happen, according to AOC, who has previously voiced support for the military aid being sent to Ukraine. That's funny that they want to make sure she's a good guy.
Yeah.
She's voiced support, but
yeah.
she's fretting a little bit. There's a way it can be very targeted, and there's a way it can be very indiscriminate. They want to make sure to only send it to black Ukrainians, I guess.
Yeah, the African. There was a story about the Ukrainians wanting to arm up the refugees or immigrants from Africa, and them running the opposite way, going, "No, we don't want to fight for Ukraine. We just want to live here."
That, and I'm not sure exactly what's real as far as that goes, because I saw some kind of this idea that a lot of them did want to leave, and they wouldn't let them. They're trapped. I've seen stuff where they are being discriminated against. There's some kind of they turned it into a racial problem.
Oh, they always do. That's what. Yeah, this is the news.
But you think that there's limits on that, like, but no, in this case. But I don't know why. See, maybe I know too little about that to really be talking about it.
Yeah.
It says who specifically on the receiving end is very important, and what specifically is being sent is also very important. I think that sort of goes without saying, you know.
Yeah.
If we're sending, tons of things that they don't need, like, I don't know, diapers or owls.
Teddy
or
bears.
Something.
Owls.
Sure.
Just sending them tons and tons
owls
of
on the brain,
owls.
sorry. But anyway, Representative Ilhan Omar, oh, wow, always consistent in her views, who came to the United States as a refugee from war-torn Somalia, tweeted that she's concerned about the prospect of flooding Ukraine with billions of dollars in American weapons, calling the consequences unpredictable and likely disastrous. She trills her R's all the time. Omar added that the role... See, to me, okay, I bet you anything that when they say she's concerned about the prospect of flooding Ukraine, that she did not say, I'm concerned about the prospect of flooding Ukraine. I bet you she said something a lot more.
It's definitely paraphrased.
It says the consequences of flooding Ukraine with billions in U.S. weapons. She says a flag, but obviously U.S. weapons. Likely not limited to just military-specific equipment, but also including small arms plus ammo, are unpredictable and likely disastrous. Specifically when they are given to paramilitary groups without accountability.
You know how easy it is to embed a tweet on a news website? You just click the button on Twitter. They didn't have to paraphrase. But
they did if they wanted her to not sound quite so against it.
Yeah.
So they're basically serving as apologists for any sort of negative views of sending Ukraine aid.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's as simple as that, And the media does this for them. If some Republican has concerns, they're not really referred to as concerns. They're, it's hysterical alarm sounding or something, alarmism. It's something like that.
Yeah.
So that's what they do for her. So it's linked,
Yeah, but they could embed it.
Yeah, but they don't want to do that. Concerned about the prospect of. Now, I do have it on the reader view. I wonder if it's
Okay,
embedded in
let's
the
see.
actual
All
article.
right.
Nope,
Oh no.
certainly
Okay.
not. Certainly not. So yeah, that's the whole idea. Is I don't know how interesting that is to everybody. I find the media do the way they work to like I said, serve as apologist for some groups while damning others. Is fascinating. It's interesting to me.
It's really interesting to dissect the media and try to find the truths from the half truths and the fact checkers and all that.
It says about Tulsi. It says a new development this week is sure to reinforce the half jokes that Gabbard is a military is a Russian asset. As it turns out, her campaign took money from one.
Oh boy.
That agent, dual Russian-American national Elena Branson, also known as Elena, Russian name, stands accused of illegally pushing pro-Russian policies in the United States for nearly a decade.
There are other countries that push their pro policies as well in the country.
Yeah.
There are a bunch. The biggest one being AIPAC Israel.
Mm.
So, but there's no issue with that. But pro Russia, oh boy, can't have that.
Sometimes these they take a little bit of heat for it just depends on what's happening at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, whatever the current thing is.
And this is for pushing pro-Russia policies in the United States. Now, if she's accused of illegally doing it, the PACs are legal, right?
Right, but
so this would be illegally, meaning what she did is she failed to identify, right, as a
foreign agent.
Which is something that they have been getting people on. It's the FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act. This was not something that they were paying much attention to before they had people to go after. I mean, that's what they got. I think what's his name?
Flynn.
Maybe Flynn too, but no, I'm thinking of the guy who was his campaign manager at one time. He looks like he looks like an old drunk from the Dean Martin days. I can't think of his name, but you would know it anyway. So overt acts and covert acts. There's the fucking.
Jeez, they
indictment.
rarely went after people for that for years and years and years.
Taking money from somebody, if you're gonna look at everybody you take money from, then politics becomes a very strange thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the Ku Klux Klan actually endorsed Obama for president one year, some white supremacy group. And I think it was the Klan. So, saying, an endorsement is not money, but at the same time, it's an endorsement. And that was not really widely reported, I think.
No.
I'm sure it's debunked somewhere.
It's debunked on Snopes.
It says in all her time lobbying for Russian goals.
Okay.
Was she wrong? I mean, what Russian goals was she? Sometimes our goals align with another countries.
Right.
Sometimes what's good for us is good for them.
For them.
It happens sometimes. She gave money to just one federal candidate, Gabbard. Okay, well, this woman was lobbying for Russian goals. I thought that was in reference to Gabbard.
Okay.
Anyway, according to the FEC records, okay, so blah, 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 they're tearing her down. And the AOC stuff, I guess, is it must be a little deeper in the article here. Or I don't know, maybe I'm not doing a very good job. We should go on to another story.
Well, it's just, this is what the media does. They pull bullshit information, make it as fact. They like I said, to point out a million times, they could have embedded that tweet from Omar, but they didn't. They paraphrased because they didn't want the whole statement to be there.
It's not really phrased as concern about the prospect of flooding Ukraine with weapons, calling the consequences unpredictable and likely disastrous. It was phrased a little bit differently than that, anyway.
Right.
I mean, it might actually convey that, but it's not the same as just coming out against it. It's not like, well, I'm for the aid, but I do have concern. I'm concerned it might have consequences. She says it will have consequences.
It will have consequences.
Omar added the role of paramilitary groups, gives her pause. Added the role of paramilitary groups in Ukraine, essentially unofficial defense forces, gives her pause.
Well,
it says, I support giving Ukraine the wait, just a moment. This is strange. Okay, so then the quote starts up here.
Okay.
I support giving Ukraine the resources it needs to defend its people. I have legitimate concerns about the size and scope. She wrote. I didn't see that in that tweet, did I? Was that there? If it is, then we got to start the show over because I'm fucking up too much. Do you see anything about that where she
Size
says
and
she
scope?
supports that size
Not,
and
not
scope?
in the tweet. Or maybe
No.
the next tweet. Is there anything
Okay,
size
yeah,
and
is
scope?
I support giving Ukraine the resources it needs to defend its people. I just have legitimate concerns about the size and scope. By the way, criticizing and questioning it is my job as a leader and a member of Congress. It's the hardest part of my job. Blah, 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 blah. So, okay, that's not incredibly inaccurate, I guess. Whatever. This is an extremely detailed analysis of this very, probably not in the end, very important subject. And I don't mean to shit on it, but I'm just saying, why don't we move on?
Okay.
Now, there's a debunking article here about Ukrainian the news coming out of Ukraine and how some people people are saying that they're calling it pro-Russia social media accounts spread false claims that that old videos show Ukrainian crisis actors.
Well, DuckDuckGo is limiting pro-Russia stuff on its search results. And I know you like to use DuckDuckGo. I like to use DuckDuckGo, but apparently they're, fiddling around with the algorithm. So when you look at the news on DuckDuckGo, you're not getting even picture. You're getting all the pro-Ukraine stuff, all the Western media stuff. You're getting, just punched in the face with debunking articles. Yeah, you gotta debunk. Always debunking. Gotta debunk the debunkers. And it just doesn't stop. And these people, they get away with it. They still have jobs.
Yeah,
Don Lemon
of course.
still has a job.
Well, they're doing their job, which is to
Yeah.
spread propaganda and fake news. I just want to know about this whole idea of pro-Russian news. What if something happens where Russia is right in a situation?
Right.
And you could call it pro-Russian news, right? Because they're not bending over backwards to see how it's not that, right?
Right. Yeah.
But this debunking business here is it seems like they just pick stuff that happens to be easily debunkable.
Mm-hmm.
No one's saying that 100% of these things are true. I mean, you wouldn't be able to do that. There's always fake videos of everything,
especially in these types of things. There were in Syria. There were in I think Libya. They're all over the place. Iraq.
A video of British science fiction of a British science fiction movie. It says, and the guy's like action. It shows him yell and everybody runs, right? But I can't imagine a situation in in Ukraine where you would have, say, 500 or 1,000 people or whatever, all running in the same direction, screaming with no smoke behind them. There's no. What are they running from?
Giant monster.
Well, that's the point. There may be a giant monster in the movie. I don't know. But there wouldn't be in real life,
Right.
So what I'm saying is it would be a shitty fucking fake thing, right? Because
Russia's
why
really
would they
sucks
all
at
be?
this.
Yeah, man, they are really afraid of Russia. They just heard a thing and ran or something. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'll show you what I'm talking about. It's from Invasion Planet Earth or whatever, which I'm sure we've all seen.
Oh yeah.
And here we go.
So roll cameras. One take one. Here we go. And
The Russians are coming. No tanks,
Nothing. Yeah.
no fire, no explosions, no bombs,
No tear gas.
no sounds. I suppose did they dub in sounds or something? You see my point? It's like if this is supposed to be some kind of a, that this has been being put out there as fake news, then they're doing a terrible job.
Really shitty job of spreading propaganda.
Yeah. And so there we go. It's just another dumb thing. So you're saying that even and there's something about the Z symbol, like nobody really knows what it is, but it's a pro-Putin thing. So I guess we know to stay away from that.
Yeah, no Z's. We can't say zebra or go to the zoo. Otherwise, you'd be pro-Russian.
Okay, I'm going to type in United States news. What new I put in the United States news. They would have just given me one story, I guess. One new. Okay, story number one comes from Reuters. Kremlin tells United States to await response to economic war.
Oh, boy.
The Kremlin tells United States to await response. Await a response. It says, this is from London or whatever. Kremlin accused the United States on Wednesday of declaring an economic war on Russia that was sowing mayhem through the energy markets and put Washington on notice it was considering its response to a ban on Russian oil and energy. Well, so far so good. You know, I mean, if the Kremlin accused the United States of declaring an economic war on Russia, then that's very accurate.
Yeah, and the Kremlin has every right to be pissed about it.
They're not going to like that, right? Yeah. So
bad thing.
it's very strange that they say accuse the United States of doing this because
it happened. Yeah,
it's reported widely, right?
yeah, absolutely.
So okay, that's so far. Russia's economy is facing the gravest crisis since 1991 with the fall of the Soviet Union, after the West imposed heavy sanctions on almost on almost the entire Russian financial and corporate system following Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. So if they imposed heavy sanctions, the West,
Right.
they imposed heavy sanctions on almost the entire Russian financial and corporate system, but they're just accusing that of being economic war, you know, which they consider to be apparently a declaration of economic war.
That's exactly what it is. It's, like you said, there's no
I don't know how else you describe it,
media
but
is
you know that's
ridiculous.
that's these little things that mean more than you think. You know,
Right.
and I love talking about shit like that. Maybe other people don't, but I find it interesting. You see, and because I know there's bigger lies, you know,
Right.
and bigger narratives to tear down than this, but it's interesting how
It's nice to see how it operates. Even the minutia they slant. You know.
Yeah, exactly. You see the bacchanalia, the hostile bacchanalia, which the West has sown. I don't know what bacchanalia is.
Baklava.
I'm going to have to look it up. B-A-C, bacchanalia.
Bacchanalia.
All right. What is bacchanalia? Probably just a word. It's a wild orgiastic party or celebration.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
You see the bacchanalia, the hostile bacchanalia, which the West has sown. They've sown orgies. Thrown, maybe, would be the better word.
Okay, weird word.
And that, of course, makes the situation very difficult and forces us to think seriously, Peskov told reporters. That's Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesman. He says he cast the West sanctions as a hostile act.
Well,
What would you call it?
if another country sanctioned us, what would that be, aside from a hostile act?
It's a Russian point of view. Of course it's a hostile act to them.
Yeah.
It's not some act of benevolence and kindness. We're going to really fuck up your economy. Congratulations.
Get ready. Have fun.
I don't mind them saying, like, they considered it a hostile act. It is. But saying cast the West sanctions as a hostile act. Boy, talk about just self-excusing, you know, all the way for the United States when they're in support of the goal. Or the thing that they're doing, the news, I mean. You know, when media people are in support of it, then there's no detail too small for them to say, you know. They can't, what I'm saying, they can't even allow that.
They have to twist it. They have to twist everything.
They
have
can't
to have
even
total
allow
control.
that, like, it's a hostile act,
Right.
you know.
Come
Okay.
on, just say it.
They're saying it's cast as one. As a hostile act that roiled global markets and said it was unclear how far turbulence on global energy markets would go. So we see that the situation on energy markets is developing rather turbulently, and we don't know how far that turbulence will go. He declined to outline the exact nature of Russia's response, which seems also reasonable.
Sure.
Not to be making threats or whatever, but President Vladimir Putin, Russia's paramount leader since 1999, will hold a meeting with the government on Thursday to discuss minimizing the impact of sanctions. So, yeah, he's going to try to minimize the impact of sanctions, the Kremlin said. The West's attempt to cut those bastards.
Damn.
They should let him hurt as much as they possibly can.
The Russian people should suffer.
The West's attempt to cut off Russia, one of the world's biggest exporters of oil, gas, and metals, has hit commodity markets and raised the specter of spiraling inflation across the world. Raise the specter of it, it's it's certainly going to cause it.
It's the whole reason why I just paid $4.85 for a gallon of gas.
Fuck you, Putin.
Yeah.
Right? That's how that works.
Got me.
It says when you pay more for gas, you're sticking it to Putin.
Yeah, I'm being patriotic
Yeah.
by spending an extra $300 a month.
By taking
Or
sides
whatever.
in this whole thing, anyways. You know,
Yeah.
like, it's a lot of shit really confuses me about this whole thing. To be quite honest. The West attempt to cut Russia off, blah blah blah, is doing that. Russian President Vladimir Putin says the special military operation is essential to ensure Russian security after the United States enlarged the NATO military alliance to Russia's borders and supported pro-Western nations like Kiev.
Didn't Joe Biden say back in the 90s that the Baltic states shouldn't be NATO members because it would eventually do what's happening now, inflame Russia, because we're getting into their backyard?
You tell me.
Yeah, I think it was 1997, somewhere in the 90s. He said it. Biden said it.
Well, okay. Back when he didn't really have the full game plan in front of him.
Yeah.
Back when he probably had more decision-making power then than he does now.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, he's a puppet.
40 years in the Senate, you know.
That's a long time. Man, that's my existence. He's been a senator.
As long as you've been alive, he's been senating. He was a young man, very young when he got into it.
Yeah.
Boy, was he ever full of piss and vinegar, too. I mean, he just that dude. Hey, how about it? Huh? You know, just a fucking spitfire.
Corn pop. Stop that.
I was like, I wouldn't start shit with that guy, even if I was corn pop. That guy is really serious. He's just, I think, always been one of the top son of a bitches that exist, which is exactly how you get elected.
Oh, yeah. He played the game.
China, the world's second largest economy, has called for restraint, but President Xi Jinping has cautioned that sanctions will slow down world economy. It will slow down. Asked about the Kremlin's comments, White House Deputy National Security Advisor Dileep Singh, he said, "This is brutal and needless war of aggression." That's what White House Deputy asked about the Kremlin's comments. He said, "This is brutal and needless war of aggression. We've said all along, if the aggression escalates, so will the costs. For us, of course," is what he means.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it an economic war. I mean, this is our way of demonstrating resolve.
It's an economic war. I mean, and China's just sitting back, looking like the benevolent world leader
What
that
dicks?
it's eventually going to be.
Oh, China is?
Yeah, they're just kind of sitting back, watching America and Russia, go after each other, and they're just, they're looking like
They're acting reasonable.
Yeah, they're acting
anything.
reasonable, and they're looking like the world leader, like we used to be. Like other countries would look to us for opinions on what to do as far as military operations and whatnot.
But you say they're looking like the leader because
Yeah.
they're not getting directly involved. and
Exactly.
shit?
They're kind of just
Or are
sitting
they?
back and
Well, they're like kind of like we are behaving. The country itself is behaving in a way that is kind of it reveals the limitations of what we can do and what we're
Yeah,
willing to do.
that's
And
for
he even
sure.
says outright what we're willing to do, what we're not going to do. We're not going to send troops there. He says, and then like, okay, good. You don't say that. Remember how
Yeah.
Trump would talk?
Yeah.
Trump would never say something like that. Why would I
all
reveal
options
strategy?
are on the table. Yeah.
Yeah. We will. Yeah, exactly. It's like
I can't wait till 2024, and we got another 3 years of this.
it's so hard to believe it's only been a year. Russia said on Monday that oil prices should shoot up to over $300 per barrel if the United States and European Union banned imports of crude from Russia. It says Brent hit $139 on Monday. What's Brent?
Brent oil.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what Brent oil is. What is it?
It's just Brent oil. I guess it's just
It's used for cooking Brent.
No, it's petroleum or petrochemical
So it's cheaper though.
than the regular than
But
crude.
the other stuff's
than
going to go
crude.
up 300 to up to 0. They say it should. I mean, look, it's the market.
Yeah,
So
this is speculation and futures.
it's like you would probably, whoever is analyzing this would say the same thing. It's not as if it should go up that high. Okay, this is Russia. Russia just said it, by the way. Not a
Right.
Kremlin spokesman or anything. Russia said this. On Monday, the oil prices should shoot up to, yeah, okay. I mean, it seems to me like anybody would say that if they know what they're talking about, which I assume they do, or would. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about today. We should just redo the whole thing.
No way.
Russia says Europe consumes about 500 million tons, TONNES, I guess it's
Okay.
an English article,
Yeah.
of oil a year. 500 million tons? That's in tons?
Tons. That's a lot of oil.
No, it was in tons. Russia supplies about 30% of that, or 150 million tons, as well as 80 million tons of petrochemicals. Now, it's asked about a ban on Russian oil and energy imports announced by U.S. President Joe Biden. Peskov said Russia was, and would be a reliable energy supplier. That's interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, we are a good so whatever they do, we're good.
Yeah, we're
Moscow
all right.
would, though, now think very seriously about a response. Situation demands a rather deep analysis. Those decisions announced by President Biden, if you were asking me what Russia is going to do what is necessary to defend its interests. Boy, that's broad.
You'd expect that.
You would, wouldn't you? I wish we would do that.
Yeah, defend our interests
Yeah.
instead of letting in millions of illegal aliens who drunk drive and kill people.
Yeah, the border has not been a topic so much since we've all been
No.
wearing blue and
We-
yellow.
Well, we went from being experts on viruses to experts on war in Ukraine and Russia. So that's
But-
where we are.
At the end, he says right now the United States definitely has declared economic war against Russia and is waging this war. I don't think that anybody, regardless of what this fucking deputy, whatever the fuck he is here,
Right.
that National Security by Dalip Singh says, I wouldn't call it an economic war. This is our way of demonstrating resolve. That's just such a fucking transparently bullshit deflection, So you wouldn't call it that, but would you agree it is that? That's what, the follow-up questions they suck. And I wouldn't let him get away with that. Would you let him? I wouldn't let him coast on
you
that
keep-
answer.
Yeah, no, you keep going. And if it was Trump in the Trump administration, they would have kept badgering and badgering and badgering.
Mm-hmm.
But
They never give up.
No.
Who was that one
Not
guy?
now.
The one that just wouldn't. That he had to say, get the fuck out of the.
Get out of
You can't come to the White House anymore. I forget the guy's name. He's a real jerk off. Reducing. Okay. This is. I typed in now. People should know. The way we get stuff here to talk about is we on the spot search.
Yeah.
And see what the news is telling us. So if you want news on the U.S. southern border crisis, as I typed in, you get the first article from North Jersey. It's from MSN. And I thought it said North Jersey. Okay, wait. Give me a break, man. I love things with read reviews, so you don't have to deal with pop-ups.
Oh, yeah.
It says, whether it's friends, family, or even the person next to you at the grocery store or in the pew at church, this is that kind of story.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
We all know people who have felt the devastating effects of the drug crisis firsthand. So this is about drugs. Unfortunately, this epidemic has worsened in recent years. Between April 2020 and April 2021, there were more than 1,600 drug overdose deaths in West Virginia, 100,000
Wow.
drug overdose deaths nationwide, an increase of 28.5% from the same period in the prior year. Well, it's amazing they're connecting this to the border crisis. So, interesting.
That's where the drugs are coming from.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, they don't really like to make that connection too much.
Death
There's a
of
bunch of
Americans.
hillbillies dying of fucking
Fuck them. West Virginia. Who cares?
right. The U.S. Center for the U.S. CDC and Prevention, whatever, has connected increases in drug overdose deaths to the nationwide COVID-19 response, which caused millions of Americans to isolate and grapple with the anxieties of an unprecedented pandemic alone.
Wait, now that number's been going up every year, regardless of the COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Well,
number's been going
that's
up.
that's true, but there was definitely a connection between the lockdown and drug overdoses. I mean, like a lot of people fucking killed themselves. There was an increase in suicide on the whole.
Yeah, but I just feel like it definitely exacerbated it.
Yeah.
But
Look, the lockdown caused a lot of fucking
Yeah.
problems. I think. At first, I was reading that with a little bit I wasn't quite getting their point. It's because they say to the nationwide COVID-19 response, lockdown,
which we didn't have to do.
and businesses closing and shit.
Yeah.
You can call that the response, but I mean, let's get specific and let's get that's it's a very what part of it, the devastating results of the response maybe.
Right.
But the specifics of it, the lockdown and stuff, is what is really where the suicides, I think, were a big factor. Not that the response on the whole, wasn't worth killing yourself over.
I had family members who owned their own businesses that were weeks away from shutting their doors because of the COVID lockdowns and all the things they had to follow, all the laws and the regulations.
Yeah, they're trying to make it impossible to
2
operate.
weeks, he was like, it was my uncle. He's like, if this keeps happening for 2 more weeks this way, I'm going to have to shut down my business and walk away from it.
Plenty of people got desperate enough just to open up anyway, and then they incurred all
he did
kinds
that.
of crazy fines and
Yeah,
shit.
he opened up anyway.
Some people were not able to, like a bar in Staten Island, they just like keyed in on him, They're like, no. And they came, arrested him. He's facing all kinds of fucking financial
And the guy
problems.
from the gym in Jersey, too.
Yeah. Yeah, standing up for what you believe in is against the federal government is really a dangerous thing, it turns out.
Do that. What are we, Russia?
Yeah. What could be worse, than like saying, well, you can't say what you want anymore about this. We're going to shout that down, quietly take you off, make you an unperson sometimes. And you can't leave the house, run your business.
Right.
You can't go anywhere without being vaccinated or a mask or both. Anyway, West Virginia saw a rise of 62%, the second highest in the nation. Yeah, I mean, that's not all lockdown. That's there's a southern border issue. I mean, you have to have more drugs for more people, I think, to overdose on them. There's some drugs that people just hardly use to, like recreationally, to no effect, like not too many functional opioid addicts.
Oh, yeah, no. Once you're on opioid, you're not functioning. I've seen many people traverse that path, and it's never worked out.
It says as we lost 1,600 West Virginians, an average of 31 people per week. It says that's more than a population of 310 cities and towns in my state of 403 cities. 1,600. You're how many? Yeah, so more than the population of.
Why?
Of 310. I don't understand. That doesn't quite seem like that could be true. I guess there's there's
small towns.
Yeah, 300. I mean, there's no city of 1,600. That's not really. Is that a city? It's a village or something, or a neighborhood or something. I don't know what they're trying to say.
I don't understand.
I don't wonder what state they live in. Anyway,
MSN, baby.
During years of COVID-19 lockdowns. Years? Did lockdowns last for years? There's a couple of... So they're extending the lockdown to mean all
right, from March.
COVID-related shit. To me, the lockdown was a certain period that ended. I mean, full lockdown.
Yeah, full lockdown was 2 weeks, and then they... based on the state you lived in.
They did extend it,
yeah. Yeah, it was based on, it was, but it was based on mainly the state you lived in.
Did anybody have years of lockdowns?
Florida
They'd have to still be under lockdown.
Yeah.
To be multiple years.
It would have to be as of March 1st.
As of today.
Yeah.
It says, during years of COVID-19 lockdowns, the increasing amount of deadly drugs pouring across our southern border with Mexico has also contributed to this unprecedented crisis. Yes, also it has contributed. Nearly 2/3 of the drug overdose and the overdose in the last fiscal year were from synthetic opioids, primarily fentanyl, 50 times more potent than heroin. Drug overdose deaths now rank close to diabetes, the number 7 cause of death.
Wow.
And surpass deaths from car crashes, guns, and even flu and pneumonia. And I would say far surpass COVID deaths, too.
I'm sure it has.
At that, yeah.
But the numbers there...
If they're number 7, what's COVID ranked,
I think we're still around a little bit under 1 million, according to them.
What's it? Oh, but not millionth place. I mean, wonder what it ranks.
I'm sure if the millionth person die of COVID, do you think they get something? You get the prize?
Yeah, you get one free COVID.
You get one free COVID?
Yeah, you get your card punched. It says reports full of statistics say drugs. This is the weirdest written article. I read some reports full of statistics. Reports full of statistics say drug deaths among children aged 10 to 14 more than tripled from 2019 to 2020, and 2 of every 5 of fake pills contain a potentially deadly dose of fentanyl fake pills.
Yeah, they say they're some sort of branded opioids when it really isn't. It's whatever with fentanyl.
And is that sold legally or on the street?
No, on the street. That's all on the street.
Oh, it claims to be one thing.
Yeah,
but it's
they
actually
claim to be like OxyContin from Purdue Pharma, for example, when it's really Jamal's basement.
instead of that clean, safe Purdue
Yeah.
OxyContin.
Oh yeah.
As mothers, it breaks our hearts. As a lawmaker, it is unacceptable. So this is written by some fucking female
Intern.
No.
No?
It just said as a lawmaker.
Oh wow.
This is opinion by Carol Miller and Sarah Chamberlain. So maybe one of them is a mother and one's a lawmaker. I don't know. But it says, yeah, okay. Look, as a lawmaker, as mothers, it breaks our hearts. As a lawmaker, it is unacceptable. So there's one lawmaker and two mothers, I'm guessing.
All right.
It's even more painful to read the news reports of fentanyl-related overdoses by middle school and high school students. That's even more heartbreaking. It says in every state of our union, even more painful. Those stories often include comments that many of these students were trying to cope with anxiety, feelings of helplessness, and the sense of isolation from COVID. I'm sure they were.
I wonder who did that to those kids.
Yeah, who did that?
Who did that? Was it Russia?
Were they in? It must have been Russia.
China?
Were they in danger of getting COVID at 16 and healthy?
Yeah,
Were they?
maybe.
Were they in any danger of getting COVID and dying from it? What was their risk? It was 0.00 what of dying.
Yeah.
So it's all needless. The
Yes.
whole fucking COVID thing. Needless.
Way more kids have died of drug overdoses than from COVID. Absolutely.
Oh.
By a multiple of thousands.
Yeah, exactly. So the cure was much worse than the sickness. Leaders in Washington must come together and work across the aisle. So I don't disagree with some of the sentiments that she's expressing here to address this crisis before any more American lives are lost. To stifle the flow of these drugs into our communities, we must go to the source and secure our southern border. Definitely agreed.
Right.
The collapse of a secure southern border has allowed fentanyl and other deadly drugs to funnel into our country and spread throughout our communities. Fentanyl seizures were up over 1,000%
Wow.
at 8 southern border points in border ports in the fiscal year. And okay, blah, blah, blah. These staggering numbers. There's reports full of statistics, you know.
There are reports
You
full of them.
you can delve into them if you want, but
Can't
trust
get
me,
enough.
full of statistics. Trust us. We need to ensure law enforcement has the tools to combat this threat. Totally agreed. Okay, so this is a story that we agree with, I guess. I have
Yeah.
agreement with a lot of this.
Sure.
It says, during the Trump administration, Congress made historic investment through the SUPPORT Act. So she's not really trying to cover anything up, I guess. It says, coupled with the hard work by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, West Virginia and the nation had turned the corner in addressing the opioid crisis. Opioid is such an awkward word to say.
Opioid.
It says, today, it's clear the COVID-19 public health emergency and the disastrous border crisis have set us back. Okay, public health emergency. We must work diligently in a bipartisan way to secure our border, stop the flow of drugs, and help Americans in addiction get back on track.
So
Okay,
how we doing on that?
great.
Yeah.
I
Bang
think
up job.
we're doing fantastic. I mean, like, clearly we are making it a huge priority too.
Oh yeah.
I've noticed that. It's all anybody talks about.
It's nonstop on the news. Opioid crisis. Opioid crisis.
Fentanyl,
border.
this, southern border,
I've just
that.
had enough, and I know they're lying to us.
That's weird. I certainly did not mean to pull up a story that does not fit our narrative of how the news lies to you. But
Yeah.
Here we are. It's certainly. I agree with much of what she said. I think that the southern border is at least equally important as the COVID response. Years of lockdown seems to be not quite factually correct.
Yeah.
And I cannot attest to any reports full of statistics. It says fair. Okay, this is the next story from the AP, and the headline: Fair omnibus fails to address border crisis despite successful elimination of the most radical Democrat poison pills. So apparently, when you type in when it comes to
Wow.
news
Interesting.
on southern border crisis, they're like, well, we know that audience well. This story is brand new, 53 minutes old.
Yeah.
It says press release content from NPR News. Okay, so March 10th, 2020. The following statement was issued by Dan Stein, president of the Federation for American Immigration Reform. I guess that's FAIR.
That's very
Okay,
fair.
so FAIR says that. They're the
Okay.
one that says omnibus failed. They're the ones. It's not the headline that says
Yeah.
it. It's the headline is that FAIR says it.
It's not AP News.
No.
Right.
See, I thought, not knowing about FAIR and what it stood for, it was just an all caps FAIR. This is fair, right? Because I'm a dum-dum. President of that in response to the FY22 omnibus spending package heading to President Biden's desk. So the following statement was issued by Dan Stein. He is the guy with FAIR. He's the president of FAIR. That is, I guess, in favor of reforming immigration.
Right.
So the $1.5 trillion omnibus spending package approved by the House and Senate, to fund the federal government through the remainder of the fiscal year provides little hope for the American people that the long-running crisis at our southern border will be addressed. Okay. However, the far left wing of the Democratic Party did fail when it came to including poison pill policy writers that would have exacerbated the border crisis even more. It says the Democratic Party did fail when it came to including those, so they didn't get the poison pills in.
Yeah, no poison pills.
Okay. On its face, the omnibus goes beyond current funding levels with a $240 million cash infusion for U.S. Immigration and Customs, ICE, and $1 billion for Customs. It also maintains funding for critical programs like border wall construction and keeps detention space at Trump-era levels. That's good news. That's the good news. It says the bad news is that there are no mechanisms in the spending package that will compel the Biden administration to spend the money as intended.
Oh boy, they could just put it anywhere.
It's like, yeah, great suggestion. We are going to buy new outfits for all the immigrants. Oh, this will be fun.
We're gonna give them lessons on how to speak English.
We're going to use this on plane tickets to take them all over the country.
Oh yeah.
I really hate the way they do that. That is so fucking devious. So it says, in fact, based on President Biden's first 14 months in office, there is every reason to believe that the money will be diverted to support the administration's anti-enforcement efforts.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's basically they're giving him this big package to fight immigration reform efforts.
Yeah, because they like we said, the article said they could do anything they want with the money. It doesn't have to be border wall construction. It doesn't have to be hiring more people. It's
Yeah.
just same old, and the money goes where the money goes.
Well, the money and the people that exist, I mean, no doubt they need more of them, but if they would just get out of their way and let them do their job,
Right.
instead of having the policies in place that they do, which are very lax, nobody's required to do anything. They, if they would just go back to having to wait in Mexico, the wait in Mexico policy was really working. We were working with Mexico to stop this shit. And that stopped, I believe. That program ended where, they tell the Mexicans, look, if you do this, hey, we'll do that. We did something for them, but they were helping. And I guess they don't help anymore because I believe he ended that policy.
Oh, yeah.
It said the spending package includes more provisions that are deeply troubling. It offers this whole thing is in quotes, by the way, because it's news because they said it, the end. We offer nothing additional. We're not going to. Which, hey, okay, I guess that's
give
fine
me
with
straight
me.
from the source.
Yeah, so the spending package includes more provisions that are deeply troubling. It offers taxpayer-funded lawyers for some illegal aliens seeking U.S. residence.
There you go.
That's what you call immigration reform. It funds centers to help process those who enter illegally, to help process them. It gives about $370 million to fund enhanced border security in Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, Tunisia, and Oman.
Where it's needed to protect the American people.
Yeah. It's important to help other countries with our money.
Oh my.
It gives U.S. citizenship and immigration services a fee for service agency. It says hundreds of millions of dollars to help them tackle backlogs and processing immigration benefits.
Benefits, jeez.
The immigration benefits aren't going out fast enough. What'll we do? It's almost like we'd be better off if we just had fewer immigrants coming in.
What they're trying to do is turn the immigrants into American citizens, so they're no longer immigrants anymore.
Well, hey, if they could
Go for it.
If they could turn them into immigrants the old-fashioned way, then a certain number of them would be allowed to do that.
Sure.
And the rest of you go the fuck home.
Get the fuck out.
Go back to wherever you came from. Get out of the fucking United States. You don't belong here. You're not supposed to be here. Whatever happened to sentences like that? Whatever happened to statements where people just say, if you don't belong here, love it or leave it. For one thing, and even
Right.
if you do love it and you're not supposed to be here, leave it.
Yeah, and now
How about this? Just leave it.
Yeah, just leave it. But it's kind of hard when
Love it
you,
from
when you
afar.
have the anchor baby law and you have all these Chinese women in San Francisco having babies. All of a sudden that baby's a legal citizen and
They ought to let him stay. The baby stays.
Yeah,
You
everyone
go.
stays.
Take the fucking. You can take the kid with you if you want. If you
Right.
don't, yeah, he's a citizen. We put him in a fucking adoption agency, and let him be raised by good American parents. Right? You want to leave your baby?
Leave
Fine.
your baby?
You
That's all right.
go.
Get the fuck out of my country.
I mean, just because you have a kid here, I hate that anchor baby law.
Yeah.
You have a kid here, they used to glorify that kind of shit on shows. I remember, let's take a show. I don't even know that it was on the show, but a Night Court or something.
Okay.
And some woman's about to give birth because she came here to. But if you deport her, she's.
Oh no.
She works at the.
Oh.
She's a good American.
Yeah. I don't care.
No, she's not. She's not an American, so she can't be a good American. Hundreds of millions of dollars to help them tackle. So USCIS is the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. USIS sounds a lot like not ISIS, but the other thing we were just talking about, ICE. USIS and ICE, it's different. That's a fee-for-service agency. That seemed necessary and important for him to point out. Significant COVID-related losses aside, USIS is incredibly short on funding because the Biden administration continues to create programs that aren't authorized by Congress. So I guess it supplies funding for them. Lastly, the omnibus revives the fraud-ridden EB-5 investor visa program. Do you know what this is? I don't.
No.
It says throughout its history, the EB-5 program has consistently failed to deliver jobs to American workers or revitalize economically depressed communities. So, I guess if it's fraud-ridden and it fails to deliver jobs to American workers, it's delivering jobs to other workers.
Yeah, the immigrants,
I
the
suppose.
non-Americans.
Other overseas or something? I mean, I don't know. But it says, thanks to efforts by FAIR and some Republicans on Capitol Hill who are truly committed to immigration enforcement and border security, maybe Ted Cruz, I don't know, open borders poison pills that appeared in the initial Homeland Security Appropriations Bill were successfully eliminated. If Republicans regain control of one or both chambers of Congress in the midterm elections, they will have a mandate to aggressively utilize control of the purse strings and increased oversight authority to ensure the Biden administration actually secures our border and enforces immigration laws. I do think that a majority in either house would do that in either chamber.
Yeah, and the Republicans as a whole, I think it's like 82% of Republicans, their number one issue is immigration.
Yeah.
So it would be huge.
Of course, that's they talk a good game. Some of these rhinos, and then they all the Republicans coming out in favor. They all support this Ukrainian stuff because I guess they all see a pay raise in their future or something. They're all a lot of them. There's some of them are making money. They're cashing in somehow on this Ukraine business. I don't know exactly how that works, but I'm sure that they have some insider information on what's going to go up, what's going to go down, I think everything's going to go up.
Yeah.
So maybe that's
Nothing going down.
Yeah, they just have they really do have a bad because they did that. President Obama signed something saying that insider trading for them is wrong.
Right. Yeah.
They couldn't make money off investments that they use information from Congress to. But now they don't have to report anything online. There's no public accounting of so they gutted it immediately the next year from 12 to 13.
Goodbye.
It says not as bad as it could have been is not good enough given the magnitude of the border crisis the Biden administration and congressional Democrats have created. Much more will need to be done to actually end it. Okay, so, hey, 2 stories in a row that aren't the worst thing we've ever seen.
That was fair.
Yeah, it was fair. Fair statements were fair. Fair and I assume accurate. Now, one more. Misleading claims. Okay, this is the very next one. Oh, is this an AP fact check? Is that what this was? Misleading claims on U.S. border guards deploying to Europe spread online. Social media posts claim U.S. President Joe Biden's administration is leaving the country's southern border exposed by asking guards protecting it to deploy to Europe to assist Americans fleeing Ukraine. But U.S. Customs and Border Protection says the claim incorrectly conflates different branches of the agency and that the personnel in question are not primarily tasked with guarding against the illegal border crossings and smuggling. Okay, even in that statement, they're not primarily tasked with it, but maybe they are. I don't know.
Secondarily,
This person and his whole administration This is a tweet from and of course there's an X over it, I guess, to imply that it's against Biden. So there's a picture of Biden in this tweet. This comes from somebody who is so big on Twitter they don't have a picture.
random person with no profile picture.
It says this person and his whole administration is bound and determined to flood the USA with criminals and terrorists through our borders. Send the U.S. Border Patrol to Europe. What the hell did he send? Okay, so now it says a screenshot of a Facebook post actually taken on March 9th. And Biden has come under fire for his immigration policies from Democrats and Republicans alike. No, he hasn't. Not from Democrats. What is he talking about? Only if his immigration policies were too severe on the immigrants, right? They might have had a problem with that. Like, the borders are not open enough.
Yeah, we need you to tear down that section of the border wall so more can come in.
It says, with some on the left expressing disappointment that the president's promises, such as lifting measures adopted under his predecessor, Donald Trump, have not materialized. Yeah, of course.
I mean, but how much? He can't make it any worse, can he?
While
he could, right?
While critics on the right accuse him of not doing enough to stop illegal border crossing. Similar claims appeared on Facebook here and in a YouTube video here that has been viewed more than this many times, whatever, who cares? It says the claims appear to stem from an article on Just the News. The website says, Just the News? I think they're in Texas.
Okay.
It says CBP's Office of Field Operations asked for volunteers, according to Just the News, for volunteers volunteers for temporary duty in Poland to assist with the people with the possible evacuation of American citizens and others from Ukraine, which Russia invaded in late February.
But it's not their primary function.
While various social media posts referred to the Border Patrol personnel going to Europe, CBP said the office has been incorrectly conflated with the OFO, which frequently solicits volunteers in anticipation of requests for assistance. OFO, rather. Man, I'm not very good at reading right now. OFO largely deals with lawful travel at ports of entry, such as American citizens leaving Ukraine, while Border Patrol deals with irregular migration between the ports of entry. CBP's website says the OFO. Is anybody watching? Is anybody watching me do this? Is responsible. I'm sorry. I'm doing a terrible job of talking it up too. Even but I just feel like it's very difficult. Even reading it is kind of weird, and listening to it must be difficult. But CBP, which is, does anybody know what that stands for? I think we talked about it before, but it says that they're responsible for border security, including anti-terrorism, the OFO,
right?
Immigration, anti-smuggling, trade compliance, and agriculture protection, while simultaneously facilitating the lawful trade and travel at U.S. ports of entry. The traditional mission of the United States Border Patrol, by contrast, is to enforce immigration laws.
Which is the same thing.
So it's just a different agency. That's it. That's
agency.
it. That is the debunk. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. So.
Got him.
Yeah. Boy. Good debunking. So that's the border crisis, and we got to be out of time.
I think so.
Yeah. So anybody who made it through this whole episode, hey, thank you for watching.
Oh,
and
yeah.
look, I mean, sometimes some people are better than others. I feel like I've failed in my attempt to convey my support of patriarchal values and in the United States of America, which it's not a patriarchy, but in our minds it is.
It should
and
be,
it should
yeah.
be. And look at I don't want to be like the Taliban or anything like that. Because women should not necessarily be whipped. They should be vaunted. They have a role here. You know what I mean?
Well, because under a matriarchy, women just get involved in crystals and they start doing Wicca, sacrificing babies to Moloch, the owl god, those sorts of things. In a matriarchy, women get out of control. I mean, look at the abortions they already do.
Yeah. You ever hook up with a Wiccan girl? Get ready for ass sex. Is what I'm saying. You're gonna get it. You're gonna be able to do that to them. Get ready for threesomes. Get ready for an unholy experience. I think the United States and countries everywhere, and in the world in general, needs some Wiccan women.
You think so? I mean, is it their body is just a temple to be sacked?
A temple. Yeah. Sometimes the body's a pimple, waiting to be squeezed.
Those are Wiccan women.
Put that on my tombstone. All right, this is the Patriarchy Show.